How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 38 of Greels Reels. I'm your host, Robert Greeley, and I hope you all are having a great day. This is a special episode today. You know, I feel like I say that a lot, but today Brendan Gillanders gives us so much insight into the world of being a professional football player. From an almost career-ending injury during the Combine, winning the Grey Cup for his hometown of Ottawa, a deep dive into some of the greatest to ever play in the CFL that Brendan has actually played with himself, playing at the University of Ottawa in the era of coaching changes and the return of the panda game, looking at life after football, and so much more. Really hope everyone enjoys today's episode, and if you do, let us know with a review or even share this with someone who else you think would like it. All right, let's get into today's show. Welcome back to Greels Reels, everyone, the podcast where I get to chat with athletes that I've gotten to know through working in the world of sports. And today's guest is an Ottawa staple. He's played everywhere in Ottawa, from the Pee Wee leagues right to the pros. Brendan Gillanders, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Rob?
Yeah, I'm good. It's nice to finally sit down and chat with you. In terms of a career, it very much is a staple location for you, Ottawa, your hometown. Like, how's that been?
Yeah, no, it's been so much fun. Like you said, I started playing football here right from the youngest age group of the local community association, and CAFA for the Cumberland Panthers. Went all the way up through that organization. Played high school football here in Orleans for Sir Wilfrid Laurier. Played university football here, the University of Ottawa, 5 years. Went and spent 2 years in Toronto playing for the Argonauts, but then obviously came back and have been here since 2016 with the Ottawa Red Blacks. So I mean, it's special. I'm definitely involved in the Ottawa community and the Ottawa football community. So it's special to be able to stay here year round and contribute that way.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so we'll kind of start from those high school Pee Wee days, like Sir Wilfrid Laurier. I mean, I know since your career's gone on, they've really embraced you as an alum and things of that nature. But when you were playing, like, what was it like? Like, were you like, yeah, I'm gonna make this a career?
No. In high school, it was just about having fun. I mean, it was the first time, like, when you play community football, you're with the guys like 3-4 times a week, play on Saturdays and stuff like that, and it's fun. But I mean, high school football is really the first introduction to you're around the team 24/7. You have that football team identity walking around the school. You're wearing your jerseys on game days at the school, and it was something special, right? It's playing with friends that I grew up with, the locker rooms right there in the school, and I honestly credit the coaches who had just happened to be gym teachers at Sir Will at the time, Erica Conan and Richard Varden, for keeping football fun. I mean, it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. It was fun. We just happened to have a good team, and the atmosphere that they kept, it was high performing football. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was fun, and I guarantee you, every single person on that team loved going to school every single day because we got to play football. So that's important, right? I mean, we're student athletes, so when you love going to school, whether it's for school purposes or football purposes, you had to do well in school if you wanted to play football. So I mean, it gave us something to look forward to.
Yeah, and I mean, I've chatted with a few guys from that Ottawa area and went to that same high school, and it's like, they very much look at you as like that kind of like role model of like, hey, yeah, I go to Laurier, like, playing in the pros, like, that's a possibility for me. So even like now, kind of sitting back and like looking at that, how's that feel?
It's cool. Yeah, I mean, just from Sir Will alone, I mean, we've got I just happen to be the oldest, but by no means would I say I was the best athlete to come out of there. I mean, we've got Jackson Bennett, who obviously is in the CFL right now, Curly Gittins as well. I mean, if I'm dating myself here and making me sound old, but I mean, I helped coach those guys coming up, and now I'm playing against them, right? So I mean, but they're phenomenal athletes. I'm not going to take any credit whatsoever for their success. They would have made it regardless of who their coaches were. They're just that good of athletes and that dedicated to their craft. But it's something that I'm honored if I can take on any sort of mentorship role. I'll embrace it, because when I was young, I had extremely high level coaches friends and good people in my life, and to kind of steer me in the right direction. So if I can do that to 1, 2, or 3 people, then I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's just passing it on. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just giving back the same opportunities that I was afforded when I was young.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And so with that in mind, so whenever you're playing Hamilton and Jackson, in those warm-ups, are you just like, hey man, remember, like, take it easy on me a little bit today on specials or anything like that, or is it all full force?
Oh no, it's full force for sure. You can't turn it on. I mean, that's what makes professional athletes special, right? Is our competitive nature. And I mean, Jackson's a competitor, Curly's a competitor. I mean, I'm a competitor, but we have fun for sure before and after the games, even training. I mean, I've been around Jackson training when he was at the University of Ottawa, and obviously we've been in the same gyms here in Ottawa for the last few years, so even training gets a little competitive sometimes, man. But that's what makes it special.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. And I guess that's a kind of good segue into like your recruitment process. So when that started like getting the ball rolling, because ultimately you committed to the University of Ottawa, what really was that process looking like for you? Like, how'd you go through those motions?
So the majority of recruiting that I had done was through 2 avenues, basically. I was on the U17 team Eastern Ontario in the Canada Cup way back in the day, and I ended up winning tournament offensive MVP. We ended up doing pretty well, and pretty much all the coaches from that tournament are U Sports level coaches, right? So my offensive coordinator just happened to be Chris Colson, who was the offensive coordinator at the University of Ottawa. I kind of had a connection with him right off the bat. So Ottawa was on my radar right off the bat from that, let alone obviously playing high school here. I had constant conversation with Coach Pichet and Coach Colson right off the bat as well. And then obviously from there came a bunch of other schools that were interested. I was getting letters in the mail, went on recruiting visits to Queens, McMaster, had a couple of NCAA opportunities as well. And same thing playing in the OVFL for the Cumberland Panthers, which is a summer league, which is kind of counterintuitive, but the NCAFA and fall leagues kind of get watered down because half the Ottawa talent is playing high school football and half the Ottawa talent is playing NCAFA, depending on the level of your high school team, right? Mm-hmm. So in Ottawa, the best football happens in the spring and summer, right, in the provincial leagues. So I also got recruited heavily through there as well. But in the end, in all honesty, and it's a warning to all players in high school, and I tell everybody that I have the opportunity to. In grade 11, I was an honor roll student all the way through high school until I got to grade 12. When I was in grade 11, I played on the senior varsity football team from grade 10 to 12, right? So all of my friends were always a grade above me. So when I got to grade 12, basically almost all of my friends graduated. We're playing CIS football, or U Sports football, I guess now. And, I slacked off. I had the big man on campus syndrome, as I call it, and school became a second priority to football. And unfortunately, in Canada, you need marks to get into university. It doesn't matter how good of a football player you are. And I didn't leave myself very many options. I wanted to get into human kinetics or kinesiology programs, and you need good marks to get into those schools. I mean, the cutoff my graduation year was an 86 average, and I was nowhere close to that. I distinctly remember Coach Pichet at the University of Ottawa sending a email to the head of the faculty of human kinetics at the University of Ottawa and kind of CC'd me on the email, more or less asking, like, what can this player do to try and get into human kinetics that year? And I really appreciated him reaching out, but I mean, the head of the faculty more or less said, like, he's 10% under the cutoff, like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything. And you know what I mean? And that it is what it is. I kind of pigeonholed myself, and I didn't get into the program that I wanted to get into anywhere. So, I mean, I wasn't willing to move away from home to take a social science or psychology degree. And no offense to those degrees whatsoever, it's just not what I wanted to do, right? Mm-hmm. So I wasn't about to move away from home and start a degree that I didn't want to do. So that was one factor. And then the other factor, obviously, obviously was the quality of the University of Ottawa football team at the time. I mean, we were a top 3 school in the country at the time, trending up, and I did have familiarity with the coaching staff as well, right? So then it became an easy decision. I didn't get in anywhere else. Plus, if I stay at home, I've got a great opportunity right in front of me. So that's what ended up happening, and I ended up just going into a general social science degree my first year, and ended up having a high enough grade point average to switch over into human kinetics after my first year, and all of those first year classes essentially became my electives, so I just had to take compulsory credits the entire rest of the way. So I mean, I did it the hard way, and it ended up working out, but I mean, it's like I said, a cautionary tale to all high school athletes that you're student athletes. Student is the first word, athlete's the second word, right? The last thing you want to do is take away opportunities from yourself because you don't take care of your work in the classroom. Your work in the classroom is what is important. I've been lucky. I've had a 7-year professional football career up to this point, but I'm in the minority. So I mean, and even then, I'm still constantly looking for opportunities outside of football for after I retire. So football's not going to last forever, and unfortunately, after your football career's done, I mean, you have to have something to fall back on, and luckily I have that human kinetics degree to fall back on, and like I said, I definitely want to make high school athletes aware of the fact that you need to take care of your grades if you want to go anywhere.
No, that's such a huge point. Obviously not on the athlete standpoint, but I was in a similar boat. Like, the institution that I wanted to go to right out of high school, like, they liked all the extra stuff that I was doing in the field, but they put me on the wait list, but they're like, your grades are ridiculous. Like, what do you mean, kind of thing, right? So, like, I never got off that wait list, and then, yeah, I luckily enough found a program in my hometown that was just a year program at a college that essentially gave me something else to put on my transcript, and then eventually I still actually didn't even get into that institution, which was Ryerson, which is funny enough where I'm doing my master's now. But you keep knocking and they'll eventually let you in. But I was struggling to find like an institution, right? Like after that, and so I had to spend a whole year at a college, and like academically, like that was the hardest year that I've ever worked, and it showed up, and I got accepted into like the most universities that like. Because the previous year was basically nothing. Like, it was a couple colleges that accepted me, but then, the next year I got accepted into a bunch of universities that I was looking at. I knew more options too, and then so for me, like, U Ottawa made sense as well, right? Where it was just like, it's the best opportunity, and they gave me like 3 credits. I didn't have to take like essentials to essay writing, so they were like, I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll take that trade off, right? But yeah, and that's the thing, right? So it's like, that whole like standpoint of a year, and I lucked out like coming across that program, right? Like, if I didn't come across that program, like, who knows essentially where I would be at or what I'd be doing right now, because it's like I didn't value academics as much as I should have in that last high school year, right? And it bites you in the butt.
Yeah, no, it does. Exactly. You need something to fall back on. And the thing that I tell all student athletes and people in general is that if you're passionate about something, you need to put the same passion into school, because unfortunately, if you don't have that, I mean, even a university degree, let alone a high school graduation right now, even a university degree doesn't get you anything in the real world anymore. You need practical experience, and you need to show basically employers what you can do and what you bring to the table. So I mean, the people that take care of the school and do the extra stuff, the community service, the community work, helping others, and have that stuff on their resume in addition to being a student athlete, are the people that are going to succeed after they're done their sport, for sure.
Yeah, there's so many facets to it now, and it's just like you said, it's nothing guaranteed, and like we live in a world too where it's like, yeah, you know what, you could not do anything and start an e-commerce business from home, and next thing you know, you're making millions. But a lot of the times too, it's just like I find, for me anyway, institutions, they give you that, at least the opportunity to like network and build on what you're doing, right? So I mean, like, if I just spent 4 years studying at U Ottawa, like I still would have a very different life, right? It's we're sitting down right now because I got involved with the football team, which you ended up having to be an alumni of, right? And then everything kind of spirals, and through the seasons of working there, and then the community of football and guys going off to the CFL, then like obviously I still know those guys, so you chat with them, and then you bump into the people who work with the Red Blacks and Tiger Cats or 67s, whatever it may be, and then you chat with them and stuff like that, and then they know your name, and you get to do more opportunities because of just how you are involved and not necessarily just the classroom component, right? So it's realistically, like, there's so many different aspects of it all that you need to apply yourself to.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I mean, that's just it. Unfortunately, like you said, we live in a world where, social media can make people famous, and unfortunately everybody else in the world has a university or college degree anyway, so you need something to separate yourself, right? And building that work ethic right from school, whether it's through sport or academics, you definitely need something to set yourself apart, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's and it's even interesting too, just how all that works, right? Because it's one of those things where it's like, you're even seeing those people on social media who are famous. Like, I mean, there's YouTube channels that pull in great views because they have a PhD, like they're doctors, like they're like showing insight into like that world of things, right? So the limits are there is no limits, basically. Like, they're non-existent. So let's talk about the play at U Ottawa, because you had a very successful career at the running back position. I mean, I guess strategically, how do you kind of approach gameplay and going into week by week?
First off, I'll start with a story, like my rookie year. When I was in my first year at the University of Ottawa, they didn't have any age eligibility rules. So, like, I walked in at 18 years old, and we had guys that were over 30 years old on our team. We had running backs that were 28, 27, 26. I walked into a pretty intimidating situation, right? Nowadays, if you're 18 walking in, the oldest someone's going to be is 24 years old, right? And I started out day one of training camp. I remember it. I was number 12 on the running back depth chart. Number 12. I was like, how the hell do they even have 12 running backs? Like, it was crazy, right? And it's funny, actually. I kind of distinctly remember. It's funny what you remember, like little moments in life that you kind of store in your brain as defining moments. And it can be little things, right? Like, I remember it's probably the third or fourth day in training camp, and we were doing inside run. Basically like a version of Oklahoma drill, right? Like half line, one lead blocker, two offensive linemen, two D linemen, two linebackers, and just banging. old school football drills in training camp. And I was running, and we weren't tackling to the ground though. And I got through the line of scrimmage and just didn't get my feet up and tripped or whatever. And I distinctly remember Coach Piche coming over and kind of saying, you're better than this. We didn't bring you in for you to look like this. And, that kind of challenge and kind of set me off in the way, you know what I mean? Denny Piche was a great coach and knew what to say to get the most out of players, and I think that was kind of the defining moment of my rookie year. After that, I went on to have a great camp. I went on to basically back up another first-year running back who just came out of JUCO in the States, and we split backfield carries. Like, I started 2 games in my rookie season for the University of Ottawa, and it went extremely well. Obviously the level of play was kind of crazy, and like I said, the thing that's going to keep you off the field in your rookie season of any sport, no matter what it is it's going to be the learning curve, right? If you don't understand and know the playbook like the back of your own hand, you're not going to get on the field, because if you're thinking, you're not moving fast. And when you move fast and you're in this flow state, that's when the good things happen. So there was definitely a little bit of a learning curve. But I had amazing mentors on the team, and they kind of embraced me. I remember one of the offensive linemen before my first start. We were in the huddle on the day before a game, and he kind of came over to me at the time, and it was one of the older guys on the team. Like I said, one of those 27, 28-year-olds. He was like, hey, listen, we've got a good thing going on here. so try not to screw it up. and at the time, I was like, is this guy serious? Like, it's a day before my first start, but you know what? It's accountability, and they know that it's bigger than any one person, right? And that's an important lesson to learn when you're young. It's not about me making my first start. It's about the team getting the win. And so, I was fortunate young in my U Auto career to have that sort of mentorship by some of the older players. And then moving through the years, I was in a difficult situation at the University of Ottawa. I was probably, my group, the guys that were there from like 2008, I went in there from 2009 to 2014, but the guys that was same thing from 2008 to 2013. I played for 4 different head coaches in 5 years, so it's tough to get any kind of continuity. The playbook changes and things like that. So. It was a little bit of a different experience, but the reason why we made it work and the reason why we had some phenomenal players that had CFL opportunities is because of the leadership group and guys that I came in with, and hats off to the coaches that did that recruiting in the 2009, 2010 and all of that, because we had good people. Like good people first and foremost on the football team that could turn into leaders. So regardless of the changes in the coaching staff and all of that, it was just continuous, and we kept it going. Obviously in 2010, with Brad Snopley leading us, we made it to the Yates Cup. Unfortunately lost on the last second field goal to Western. But, I was only part of one losing season. I only missed the playoffs once in the 5 years that I played there. So, overall, it was an extremely positive experience. Like I said, it was a little bit of an unfortunate situation a couple of years. But at no point in time would I ever give it up to play for anywhere else, you know what I mean? Because of what the experience gave me in terms of life skills and leadership ability and just the people that I met.
Mm-hmm. No, and you're hitting the nail on the head too, in the sense of I've been able to meet a couple of guys from like that era of things, and you mentioned Brad included in that, and it's good people, right? So it definitely makes sense that you guys were able to maintain and be consistent in terms of success and putting wins up over that time span, because it's just like it makes sense with like that group of athletes that was just there, right? And I want to talk about Brad, because that the best quarterback in the country at the time, and obviously now he's one of the best receivers over the last 5. I'm trying to think now how basically since he's entered the league, he's
pretty much
been the the best receiver. So it's when you were playing with him in university, what was that like? And now just kind of full circle being with him all the time now for the last few years.
Man, it was fun to watch him on the field. It was fun to play with him. He's a special athlete. Like, people don't understand how good of an athlete he is. He was a offset track runner in high school. Apparently, he was better at lacrosse than he was at football. He's the best golfer I've ever played with. Like, it's phenomenal how good of an athlete he is. Like you said, to make the transition from Crichton winning quarterback to basically one of the best Canadian receivers, one of the best receivers. Forget about the fact that he's Canadian. One of the best receivers in the CFL. It's so impressive, but it's just how good of an athlete he is. Like, it's funny. I joke with him all the time, because in university there's a couple of things that stood out about playing with him. One is I would never ever play catch with him prior to games, because my hands would be literally red. Like, he didn't know how to throw the ball softly. Like, he has one of the strongest arms I've ever seen in my entire life. So I couldn't throw the ball with him before the game, because my hands would be fucking hurting come kickoff time. Like, that's how hard he throws the ball. And then 2 is that I knew I had kind of that had to develop that quarterback clock in my head, where it's okay, if I'm on my check down and I see that he hasn't gotten rid of the ball yet, I'm just going to go and block someone. Because, one, he didn't throw a check down the entire time I played at U Ottawa, and I give him crap about that all the time to this day too. But 2, with the running ability like he has, I don't blame him. like I said, it was like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. All right, let's go block a linebacker or something because Brad's about to take off. And there's a couple of highlight runs that he had that, I mean, literally on the field, like from the opposite side of the field, if he took off, and I'm just watching him in awe in what he could do. Like, he's a phenomenal athlete. It was something special to be able to play with him. And like you said, not only a good athlete, but a good human, man. Like, super nice guy, quiet, but also probably one of the biggest goofballs you'll ever meet. We room together now too, so we get to spend a ton of time together now, and it's always been fun. I'm glad that we were able to reconnect, and we're on the same team now, because I sure as hell wouldn't want to play against him.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's such a treat watching like him play, like just the sideline. Like, I'm not, I was never a big football guy. Like, obviously, like just Newfoundland, there's no football, so like it's kind of funny. My first actual like, I guess recognition of Brad is because he went to Newfoundland with the Grey Cup. Because I believe Jeff Hunt's from
exactly
out west, and so like that was like, I was like, oh man, like that's awesome. And it's kind of funny that that's like my first like memory of like kind of like recognizing like Brad Sinopoli as like an athlete, and then, you know, getting to know him on the sideline every now and then and saying hello and things of that nature. So I've never thanked him for that, but because that was huge for the community of Newfoundland, right? And like I think it definitely got a few people thinking about football, and now like it's still like, you know, very small, and it's really hard to, you know, create a sustainable program with like our population, right? Because it's not even like, you know, players, but it's coaching staffs and things like that. So but you're seeing now like there's a kid who I think from Newfoundland who just like committed to a football program. That was like last summer, or it's like looking like he is, like, you know, so it's definitely a building. So it was cool to see that, like, that's kind of like, I think in the modern area anyway, like my group and like the people who are younger than me, that's kind of like where it, almost the fixation and notice of football started up again. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And it's so important, like you said. I mean, access to great coaching is so important, but I mean, we're kidding ourselves if we don't think that there's great athletes coming from the East Coast, right? It's their access to resources, and like you said, coaching is so important too, and that's what's so important here in Canada. And there's been a lot of talk lately about how we improve the level of play in football in Canada to compete with what you're seeing in the States. And I mean, I'm probably in the minority, but from my perspective, I don't think that we grow our Canadian game by allowing our best players to go and play NCAA football. And let me back that up by saying I don't blame anybody for going down to the States and playing NCAA football right now, because that's their best option. That's their best avenue to play high-level football and then come back here and play in the CFL. So I do not blame them whatsoever. What I'm trying to say is that the stakeholders in Canadian football, whether it be the CFL, Football Canada, the individual provinces that regulate the football in their provinces, to high school football, to community football, they all need to basically unite and figure out how we keep the best players in Canada and grow the game that way. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to, or wasting resources promoting all of these players and how good they're doing in their NCAA teams and Canadians playing in the NFL and stuff like that, we need to figure out how to keep the best talent here in Canada and drive them into our U Sports programs and build it that way. And how that happens, I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I don't fault any player for going down and playing in the NCAA whatsoever. It's high level football. I'm sure that they have great experience. They're playing in front of large crowds. They have access to phenomenal resources. But I mean, my challenge to football communities and organizations in Canada basically is to figure out how we keep our country's best talent in Canada to play football that way, and that's how we build the game. Once we can start getting this top talent into U Sports, that's how we build the game, and then we can promote U Sports to the same level that we're promoting how Canadian players are doing in the NCAA, right? Yeah. And I mean, how that happens, I'm not sure. It's resources, it's access to coaching, like we were talking about, and I mean, Yeah, part of the blame is on the individual programs in Canada as well. If you have top football players from the GTA, I mean, there's no reason why U Sports coaches shouldn't be able to get them into U Sports programs, right? But like I said, until we have the resources or the ability to keep these athletes in Canada, it's going to be really hard to grow our game.
Yeah, no, hopefully, essentially you want to get it to a spot where, every game's a Panda game times 2, times 3, right?
Absolutely, exactly.
What's interesting is like you got the chance to play in like the I guess the return of the Panda game, like, and when it was still at Lee's and it hadn't, I guess, exploded into back at like TD Place and like the large crowds again. So yeah, what was that like when it finally first like started up again?
It was fun. I mean, it was different because there was a level of It's funny because everyone says that, the rivalry was probably forgotten, right? Like, Carleton didn't have a football team forever, but in the first game, the Carleton coaching staff was like 50% U Ottawa's old coaching staff that I initially came in for, right? And so there was a little bit of a rivalry there. Obviously, our head coach and offensive coordinator left the University of Ottawa's program to go on and take offensive coordinating jobs at Carleton, so there was a rivalry there. And I'll tell you, there's definitely not 1 ounce of bad blood in my mind whatsoever there. Those coaches are some of my best friends now, and we see each other all the time, and we're able to talk shop and stuff like that. But at the time, I know that there was a few players that felt abandoned. So I mean, right away the rivalry was like instant again, right? Like, we hate Carleton, it's no problem, let's go out and kick the crap out of them. But it was fun, It's like you said, that atmosphere of playing in front of that many fans and the animosity and the tension building up before the game, and even the media here in Ottawa does a great job covering it. It's fun. It's fun, and it gives players the opportunity to experience what it's like to play in the CFL atmosphere, especially now playing at TD Place, right? I mean, not only that, but it's a huge recruiting tool and advantage for the two teams here in the city, right? I mean, very rarely are you going to get a game with that many people in attendance anywhere else in Canada. So I mean, it's a huge recruiting opportunity for the two schools that are here now, and it's fun to be a part of. It's a professional atmosphere at the game, so it's a really cool experience for the players. It's good for the Ottawa community, and it's good for the football community and U Sports in general.
Yeah, no, it's honestly like, this is like, I guess, the time of the year where essentially we'd either just kind of be going into it or coming out of like the Panda Week and stuff like that. And it's honestly, it's one of the best weeks of the year. Like, campus life is a lot better. Like, everybody's like really excited. There's different contests going on. They got like large anticipation that just keeps building and things of that nature now, right? So it's cool that I guess you kind of got to see like it come back and then just continue, and as like you're still with the Red Blacks, you almost get a front row seat to what it is now, right?
I get a front row seat. I go on the field. Yeah. I'm on the sidelines all the time, hanging out with the guys and stuff like that. But yeah, no, like you said, exactly. It's a fun atmosphere, and I'll tell you from being on the sidelines, the players appreciate it. Like, you see the players looking back in the stands, and that they're taking the moment in. You know what I mean? And in all honesty, that might be the peak of some players' career. It might, right? Like, it's rare. There might be 1 or 2 players from each team each year that get a CFL opportunity, but for the vast majority of the players, that's going to be the highlight of their career, playing in the Panda game, and that's something special, and it's important to make it special for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, it's if you guys are hearing the dog in the background, we're out on a patio. We got to do things a little bit differently, but no, exactly, like the it is something special. I think like, even for myself, it's like walking around like the stands and stuff like that, and like all the students that and like people are like shouting your name out, like looking for a photo and things of that nature. It's like you legitimately, like, everybody feels like a celebrity, like coaching staffs, like trainers, like the players. Like, it's such a big moment. And even talking about for like U Sport and the product, like, honestly, it's the biggest event. Like, it's it's a good thing and a bad thing, that the fact that like the national championship, if the national championship is in Quebec City, like, and Laval is there, and then maybe it's like a Western or another like highly like TED program, like maybe a Calgary or something of that nature. Like those games get like 21,000, 20,000 people out, and like Panda's tipping the scale at 24, right? So it's incredible that like for the most part a regular season matchup brings in more than in terms of attendance than the national championship, which is like unfathomable for a lot of leagues around the world even.
Absolutely, and you know what? I mean, it gives the university so many opportunities, whether it be revenue opportunities, sponsorship opportunities, media opportunities. The game's broadcasted, right? It's professionally done. It gives U Sports a platform to be shared across Canada and say, hey, this is legit. You know what I mean? Like, this is not bad football, and it goes to say exactly what I was talking to in terms of grassroots football here in Canada. I mean, the thing that young players need to understand, and why I get so frustrated at coaches and people in the public that are pushing athletes down to the NCAA as opposed to explaining all their options, is because I came up through Canadian football or amateur football here in Ottawa. I came up through U Sports. I've played against Super Bowl champions. I've played with Super Bowl champions. I've played with Heisman runner-ups. We ended up in the same spot regardless. They played in front of 92,000 fans. They played in the big house down in Michigan and stuff, right? And we took such different routes, but at the end of the day, they're my teammates, they're my opponents, and we ended up in the same spot. So for it doesn't matter the route you take. If you are a good enough player, you will end up where you're supposed to be, as long as you take care of business on and off the field. And as far as I'm concerned, like we talked about, you can use the broadcast and the media attention that games like the Panda game get to promote our sport nationwide. And there's other huge rivalry games that deserve the same attention too, like Laurier Waterloo. That's a huge rivalry game every time that happens as well, right?
I enjoyed turning that game on, honestly. Like if we're not like playing, because obviously like a lot of times like things like fixate at the exact same time, but I think they had it on like I want to say like a Thursday or a Friday night, so I was able to watch it. Like I love turning that game on. Like that one's another big one too.
Yep,
yeah.
Queens homecoming, Western homecoming. I mean, there's some big games that attract a lot of fans and just don't get the media attention that they deserve. And the better job we do promoting the Canadian product, the better young athletes and young community coaches are going to understand the high level of football that we have here in Canada.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And I guess going back to the route and how you take it, because I guess the next steps for you was the combine. And I think in terms of maybe the historically rough or like worst case scenario combines, I think your story might reach the top. So if you want to let the people know a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. Fortunately, I got one day of the combine in where I got to do all the testing, the jumps, the bench, and all that stuff, and it went extremely well. And then the second day, when you put on pads and you're doing the football drills, we were in an indie period with the other running backs, and I can't even really describe what happened. We were just doing a step over bag drill, and I put my foot down on the ground. It was literally that simple. I put my foot down on the ground like I've done 100,000 other times in my career, every single indie period from tyke football, and I just kind of felt my foot like roll over and knew instantly that something was wrong. And it swelled up like real quick, real fast, and no one kind of knew what was going on. And then it ended up being about 4 weeks after I got back in Ottawa in a walking boot that I finally got diagnosed with a Lisfranc fracture dislocation, which is a hard injury to diagnose, especially given the circumstances. I mean, you normally see it with falls from high-rise buildings or high-velocity car accidents. Like it's a hard injury to get, and it's an uncommon injury. And yeah, it's essentially the ligaments that support the bones in the middle of your foot break or fail, and your bones are free to move around. So, I mean, even wearing a walking boot for about 2 weeks while I was getting it diagnosed, I mean, I could literally feel my foot dislocating on certain steps, like into the ground. And up until about 2009, the repair was surgically putting in pins and needles and screws, which would have essentially ended my career. Because obviously if your midfoot doesn't move the way it's supposed to be, you can't run. So, I mean, I was fortunate that it happened after a surgery was invented called a tightrope fixation, which they basically screw through the middle of your foot, put a little tightrope fixation, they call it. It's basically like a flexible wire that mimics the ligaments, and then a screw on the outside and top of your foot. And it took about a year and a half to fully rehab before I was able to, well, before I felt like myself again, let's put it that way. So, I mean, yeah, that happened in front of all the coaches, all the scouts, and everything, and it ended up basically costing me the rest of my combine and cost me my draft year as well. So it was pretty close to a nightmare situation in career, but I was fortunate enough. I mean, I have a great support staff. I'm saying I have a great support staff. I'm calling it because I'm talking professionally, but it's really my family and friends that keep me motivated and keep me going. And you know, I basically was in rehab mode. I had a goal by that point. I mean, I got that far to the CFL Combine. I wasn't about to just give up because of an injury, right? So I ended up going back, finishing my 5th year at the University of Ottawa, playing for Coach Barisi there. And then it was a little bit of an interesting draft experience, obviously, too, going back a little bit, because we had 2 players from my team that year that were drafted. And obviously I didn't get drafted. I had to go with my agent and call the teams and say, hey, listen, like, I need surgery. I can't play this year. Like, I'm going to be a project. Unfortunately, like, there's nothing I can do. It's going to be a while before I can run again. But so it was a little bit hard going through draft day and obviously being happy for my teammates, but feeling a little sorry for myself. And I'd be lying if I said that didn't happen, right? Given the circumstances. But it ended up probably working out. I don't want to say better, but it worked out in the end, because what happened was after the draft, I had about 5 teams trying to put me on their negotiation list to get my rights to sign me when I was available. And so I ended up essentially getting to pick where I wanted to go. And the Toronto Argonauts were one of those teams that were interested, and my dad's entire side of the family lived in Toronto. Toronto was the team that I watched most often growing up because my dad was an Argos fan, obviously being from Toronto. So it was a fairly easy choice for me to choose the Argonauts. And then, I mean, the rest is history. I played my 5th year at the University of Ottawa, signed with the Toronto Argonauts as a free agent right after the season, as soon as they could sign me, and then went to training camp with them in 2014 and ended up making the roster. And now I'm on year 7 of the CFL career. So
it's pretty impressive. And yeah, I mean, it really does put everything into perspective too, right? Where it's just like, you know, sometimes I guess if you're going through the motions and, you know, you're so frustrated, it's one of those, I guess, where you just kind of try and think of that mindset where it's like I got to do everything that I can to get out of this, and like almost, hey, like it always could be worse too, right? And like trying to power through.
Yeah, no, exactly. And mindset's everything, man. Mental toughness and your mindset. I mean, the situation is only as bad as your mind lets it be, right? I mean, so to me, I just approached it as another challenge. I mean, instead of viewing it as a setback, I'm viewing it as a challenge. And that was kind of my mindset. And I mean, sorry, my dog's just saying hello to Rob right now. That's why I'm laughing. But no, yeah, it's all about your mindset. And I mean, I wanted to play professional football, and as far as I was concerned, nothing was going to stop me. So it is what it is, given the circumstances. I fought through it and got better and made it.
Yeah. And so I guess now, now you're a pro. You're with that Argos organization. Now it's what the sport that you loved, and it's been a passion and a hobby essentially your whole life. Now it's a career. How'd you handle that adjustment?
It's different, man. It's different. I mean, in university, and in every other aspect, until you get paid to play football, there's one motivation, right? There's a singular motivation for everybody on the team, and once money becomes involved, people, at the end of the day, the goal is always to win the Grey Cup, right? But I mean, you have guys that are close to 40 years old with kids, guys that are 30 years old with kids, guys that are fresh out of NFL training camps, guys that are fresh out of university football like me. It's all over the place. And I mean, you do get all ulterior motives. Some people are playing for their family. Some people are playing for the money. Some people are playing for the Grey Cup. You know what I mean? And you'd be lying if you said that didn't happen. And I mean, it changes things for sure. The locker room dynamic is a little bit different. And, it was one of those situations where I was fortunate. I was mentored by some amazing people, not to mention football players. I mean, I walked into a room with guys like Ricky Ray, Chad Owens, Andre Dury, right? Some phenomenal players. They will be in the CFL Hall of Fame at one point, right? And I mean, I was fortunate to walk into that situation and be mentored by those guys young in my career. So it was fun. I mean, it was nerve-wracking, my first training camp experience, and honestly, my first season as well. It's one of those things where you get a little bit anxious because the roster changes every single week, right? So it's one of those situations where I'd never in my football career been in a situation where I'm constantly looking over my shoulder at the next guy behind me, wondering if I'm going to be in the lineup this week. And that was the first experience that I've ever had with that. And that's a huge mental hurdle that young players have to pass. And you know what? You have to, again, become comfortable with being uncomfortable and adapting to the situation, right? So the quicker that you can adapt, the quicker that you're able to thrive. And again, it's a huge learning curve. You go from a high school playbook to a U Sports playbook. That's a huge difference. Same thing. You're an 18-year-old coming in with a certain body type versus a 25-year-old as a certain body type. Huge physical difference as well. Now, you might not have the physical differences in transitioning from U Sports to the CFL, but you have a huge mental hurdle. I mean, the playbook doubles, triples, quadruples compared to the U Sports playbook. So there's a steep learning curve. All the terminology is different. It's essentially like I equate it to learning a different language, because it is. When you're talking about completely different terminology, it's like learning a different language, right? So the faster that you can pick that up, the faster you can get onto the field. And then not only that, you have to be able to adapt to other situations. I'll tell you one thing. It was the first time I've been around or played against players that have played in the NFL and NCAA athletes and stuff like that. And the very first thing that strikes you is the speed of the game. The Americans bring up the pace and speed of the game like crazy. These NCAA athletes are fast, man. these guys that played in the NFL are fast. You go from being one of the fastest guys in U Sports football probably to being average on the CFL. So it changes the game that way as well, right? So there's a ton of different hurdles that you have to be able to adapt to, and the faster you can adapt and adjust your mindset and skill set to those things, the better off you're going to be, and the faster you're going to see the field. Mm-hmm.
No, it's interesting, and it's very adaptive, and it's even for those NFL, NCAA guys too. Like they're also adapting, different ball size, different way the game's played, obviously with the downs and the size of the field and things of that nature too, right? So yeah, it's interesting how it all kind of works and just intertwines with each other, right? And even too, which is kind of impressive, you're seeing guys go CFL, NFL, CFL, right? And making those adjustments on a dime, right? So it very much is that, adaptability is a very positive trait to have within pro athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I mean, you can't the one advantage that Canadian athletes have against these guys that are coming up from the NCAA or the NFL is that we're used to playing Canadian football. We're used to the rules, and you have to use that to your advantage for sure. But like you said, adaptability is a huge skill set. Some people self-sabotage by getting into their own head before they can even show what they do on the field. So the mental aspect of the game and preparation is extremely important once you get to the professional level.
Mm-hmm. What was Ricky Ray's favorite play call?
Ricky Ray's favorite play call. Oh man, I don't know. You'd have to ask him. Ricky Ray, he's like as a mentor. I mean, he's as quiet as they come. Let's put that. He's not a raw guy, right? Like I've played with guys like if you've played with guys like Henry Burris, right? He's a raw guy. He's an in your face. He's a loud. He's a pregame speech. Ricky Ray is California cool. Like he's quiet. He's calm. He never gets up, never gets down. Just he's a professional. He's another coach out on the field. You know what I mean? And Henry Burris is the exact same way. He's another coach out on the field as well, but he does it loud. Ricky Ray does it quietly. So he kind of leads by example, and him staying cool under pressure, never getting high, never getting low is definitely something that rubbed off on me. And I mean, he even being at the age that he was when I played with him, he's just such a student of the game, and you pick up on those habits, right? It's the same with Chad Owens and Andre Dury. Like those two guys were machines, man. They'd run 100 reps in practice and then stay after practice and run extra routes, and you're like, man, like you two are already like two of the best receivers in the league. Like calm down. And it just was never enough for them. You know what I mean? Like they had that work ethic. So to see that and them put in that much work, I mean, that's something that I really tried to model my game after and model my work ethic after as well. And it resonates with young players when you have old players on the team that have that kind of work ethic.
Yeah, and man, now that I think about it, you've been pretty blessed in the quarterback situation. Ricky Ray, Henry Burris, Brad Sinopoli in college.
Yeah, Trevor Harris.
Yeah, Trevor Harris, another one. Yeah, I mean, what's the secret to finding good QBs? I guess
I don't know. I've been fortunate. I mean, like I said, even I mean, I'm naming those three, but I mean, Dom Davis here now, Nick Arbuckle. I've had time to spend around him this past off season. Obviously, didn't get the chance to play with him yet this year, but looking forward to it next year. But I mean, you don't make it to the CFL as a quarterback by being a bad player. I'll put it that way. Like there's been some very good quarterbacks that have come into training camp and just haven't gotten an opportunity or a shot because the CFL field is 65 yards wide. Like if you're throwing an out to the field or a hook to the field to the Z receiver out wide, you have to put it on or it's a pick six. You know what I mean? Like you might be throwing a 45-yard pass for a 5-yard gain. Like it exposes quarterbacks that cannot throw the ball or don't have the arm strength to do it. So I mean, I've been blessed and lucky to play with amazing quarterbacks here in the CFL, but I mean there's also some phenomenal quarterbacks that I haven't had the opportunity to play with here in the CFL that I really enjoy watching because they're exciting players as well. It's a quarterback friendly league, and if you can play, if you've got the arm strength, if you can move, it's a great opportunity for some of these guys that come up from the States.
Yeah, no, it's just almost the beauty of the situation sometimes, right? And yeah, like I said, there's so many talented quarterbacks, and a lot of the stories, and I mean, you're even seeing now too, Winnipeg's guy,
Streveler.
Yeah, he's down with Arizona right now, and he's getting a few reps. Obviously, they got Kyler Murray, right? But
short yardage situations and stuff. Yeah, no, I mean what he did last year too. It's impressive. Like I said, I've always been impressed with guys I play with or guys that I don't. I mean, good football is good football. You know what I mean? And if you're so stubborn that you can't watch somebody on another team or from the sidelines and be like that dude's a player, like he can play. You know what I mean? I've been on the field on special teams, playing against people, and certain things that they've done have impressed me. Like, human beings as athletes and what they're able to do is incredibly impressive. And I mean, you get a front row seat to it being media on the sidelines and stuff like that. But honestly, I wish that there was a way that general fans could really get an appreciation for some of these athletes that are playing the game, to see how high they can jump, how fast they can jump, how they move. Like, it's incredible. And I mean, like I said, I'd be lying if I haven't played against guys that are really good and impressive athletes. And like I said, good football players are good football players, whether they play with me, against me, or I'm watching them on TV. I can appreciate good football.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's like, it's so key to, and like, it's something that I stress all the time, because you know, you'll get like the scattered call, and like people will ask you like, oh, like, what do you think's gonna happen, and like, oh, like, what's going on with him, like it's not working out, like what's going on, right? But it's like, if you like take a step back and look at big picture and look at like every like little intricate detail that these like players are working on and things of that nature, like it's crazy, right? Like, it's stuff that you won't even be able to fathom, honestly, because it's like I find the best example that I like to use is like LP, Richie, and Lou. Those guys, like, you know, LP's the long snapper, Richie's the holder, and Lou's the kicker. And it's like, a lot of people are just like, okay, yeah, it's snap to hold to kick, and it's a field goal, simple as that. And it's like, what people don't realize is, in practice, like, they're practicing, like, LP is practicing his snaps to the point where it's like, okay, we're going to strategically snap this ball and get it down to a repetition where the laces are essentially being in the perfect position that we want as soon as it comes into Richie's hands. And like, those like intricate details are what like they're working on in practice. And like, there's no way that you know, from like the outside looking in, that you look at a field goal and you're like, oh yeah, like you know, they're working on like that small of a specific detail that makes a big difference, right?
Yeah. First of all, I want to point out that you called Richie Leone a holder, so you definitely have to tag him in that and not a punter, because he's gonna love that, and I love that you said that. So that's awesome, because Richie and I joke about that all the time. So I love that. And then second of all, like you're talking about, for sure, people don't understand that how the minute details matter. Like you're talking about in terms of being able to long snap so that Richie gets the laces in the proper position. One, people can, I guarantee you, cannot appreciate how hard that is. And then two, we're talking about as well, like not only that, but the velocity at which he snaps the ball with. Like we're talking about like 1/100th of a second in terms of how fast LP gets the ball back there, could be the difference between a blocked field goal or not. Like it's absolutely incredible that the details matter, and people that take care of the details are the people that do well.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%, and yeah, and then even on like Lou's part too, like there's always like little intricates, and yeah, no, Richie knows I love him. Richie is a you know, Richie's a great punter, a fantastic punter, honestly. Like, and one of those two where we can even look at him and the intricate things and the little details that he does that makes a big difference, right? But obviously, Richie, I'm only calling you a holder because it's the situation that we put out there, right? Like the scenario right now. But he loves it though. He takes that. I've never seen somebody take so much pride in that position and that role. Like I've seen like a lot of guys hold, like whether at the university level or you know, even seeing how some guys do it CFL, NFL. I don't think there's a more prideful holder than Richie in the league.
No, for sure. And I mean, that's why they're professionals. That's why they're professionals. The little details matter, and they can be especially that field goal ops, right? I mean, it could literally be the difference between winning the game or losing the game. And you never want to say that the game comes down to one play because there were 120 other plays, right, in the game. But at the end of the day, it could be up to the kicker to make one kick, right? So I mean, it's extremely important, and the little details matter, and that's just it. That's what's so great about the game of football, is that every single position on every single play has to perfect those little details in order for the play to work, right?
Yeah, no, and I mean, I use that example because that's kind of like the easiest one for me to articulate.
Yep.
But like I've sat down with you know, RJ Harris. He had me out to do his daughter's like birthday party.
Yeah.
And, like, we were just chatting at like dinner, and I believe it was Rhymes was there as well, and they
Dom,
like,
yep.
yeah, and they were chatting back and forth, and like they were telling me about like a few like intricate details on like the receiver position, and it's like, holy smokes, like yeah, like just from the motions of like knowing like when you're running your route, and then like also kind of like keeping eyes on like the quarterback and like seeing like where they are in the situation, and things that you even mentioned earlier where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm in the check down with Brad, 1-2, okay, he's obviously not going to me, let's go find a linebacker because he's probably going to take off, right? Like those little things that like a lot of people aren't just going to be able to notice, right?
100% on any given, like you're talking about, just a pass play. When you talk about linemen, I mean, certain steps, if their set is too shallow, too deep, can affect the play, right? Timing of the snap, who they're calling, the center's calling the pass protection as well, the running back, same thing, your check release for receivers. I mean, we're talking West Coast football because most of the systems up here are West Coast spot throws, right? And or West Coast offensive systems. And I mean, if a receiver breaks the route at 11 instead of 12, they're at the spot too early. Quarterback can't hit him. If they break it at 13 instead of 12, they're not at the spot in time. If they round it as opposed to breaking it down, they're at the spot too early. Like there's so many little nuances, and that's what's amazing about the game of football, is that people don't understand. They see the overall product, they see the overall play. They don't understand how the individual athletes work together and how every single little detail about what you do every play affects the outcome of the play. You know what I mean? And that's why it's so easy to put the blame on quarterbacks or somebody who missed a block or somebody who dropped a pass, but there's so many different factors that go into one play that when you start breaking down 60 offensive plays and you realize it that way, it's like that's why we spend 4 hours of film a day, because it takes that long, and you need that analysis in order to perfect your craft, and the people that are willing to put in that effort to go the extra mile are the people that succeed.
No, 100%. And yeah, we could go into a rabbit hole of all
this.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, hey, when it became an option that the Red Blacks could be your future home, like how easy was that? Come back to the hometown.
It was, I want to say it was easy, but I had a good time in Toronto, and I am a pretty loyal person, and I really respected Toronto for giving me the opportunity to get into the CFL, and that's something that's special to me. I'm very, very thankful to Jim Barker, who is the general manager, Coach Milanovic, who's now with Edmonton after being with Jacksonville as the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator. But I'm very appreciative to them and the situation that they put me in for those 2 years and giving me my first chance. But to be in the local community year round and play football here in Ottawa, that I played university, high school, it's something special. And I guarantee you, if you ask anybody around the league, if you get a chance to play for professional sports in your hometown, it is incredibly special. I mean, the Red Blacks have a tradition of letting fans on the field after the game, and that's something that, I mean, I'm always out there, because at any given game, it's like someone comes up to me and they're like, remember me? And it's like, it's been 13 years. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, of course, what's up? And so, I mean, the people that I run into, being able to help out the football community year round as well, being able to do appearances in the community, being able to do some charity work as well, it's something that's special to me to be able to play in front of this community, for sure.
No, and that's you mentioned it, and I want to touch on that, because I think in terms of like one of the things that like the Red Blacks organization does, like that fans on the field is so special and such a unique experience that, like, I mean, I've been to like on the road in like university games, and it's Thanksgiving weekend, all the families and friends are there because it's a long weekend, and then players have to run up to the bleachers because they're not allowed down on the field, right? So it's like it's such a unique experience, and like I recommend anybody who's in Ottawa, if the Red Blacks are playing, to check it out, and not just like 3 minutes left, let's get in the car because we want to get out of here before the rush of the parking and all that, right? But like just waiting and getting to walk down and walk around and feel what it's like, because it is special. And like I said, like there's never not at least 10 to 15 guys that are just out there like waiting, right? And like you really do get the opportunity to just go up and be like, hey, like what's up, like. And like what's special too is like, you know, girlfriends, wives, families are there and stuff like that. And like for me it's a little bit different because it's almost nice because I get to talk to the wives and the families and the mom and dads, and it's just like you get to know them as well as you guys, right? So it's like, oh, like how you been, like, and it's a nice time to catch up. But even for, you know, the fans to really get that one-on-one, I guess not one-on-one, but time with the players after, especially, you know, after a big matchup or things like that, it's so unique.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's what sets the CFL apart from some of the other professional organizations is the access to the players, right? I mean, the access that the CFL gets to the players and the fans, and I mean, the number of people that I've met through the CFL and the fan base here in Ottawa and stuff like that, it's absolutely incredible. I mean, other sports leagues, it's almost impossible for fans to interact and on social media and let alone in person, right? And I mean, the CFL, like we said, at any given game, I'll meet like 1,000 people after the game, signing autographs, just saying hi. I mean, at the end of the day, we're people. No one's making $1 million a season. Well, some quarterbacks are getting close, actually, but the vast majority of us are making $1 million, right? And that's something that's special about the CFL is the amount of access the fans and outsiders get to the players. And that's honestly one of in my mind the things that I enjoy the most. I love meeting people. It's great for networking opportunities, like we talked about it, in terms of career advancement as well. And it allows you to feel a part of the community as well, right? It when you have those types of interactions with the fans, especially in my hometown, I mean, it makes you feel a part of the community, and you learn to say hi to the same people all the time. You figure out who the super fans are quite easily because they're always around, right? And I mean, it's special. You get to build relationships with people in the community that I don't think other professional athletes get to do.
Mm-hmm. No, I gotta say, I love the super fan, like, because the super fans, the funny thing is like they almost like they love everything, like I mean, they almost become like fans of myself too, right? And like the support that like you, like I, even like me, just like, you know, taking photos and things like that, like those super fans, like, and they make it so much fun to, like, you know, come to the thing, because then like they know your name and like they're almost as excited, like, I mean, they're probably not, if they see you, they're probably more excited than than when they're seeing me, but they make it feel like I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm basically the starting quarterback today. What's up, guys? How you been? Right? Like it's awesome. It makes coming to like arenas and fields like so much fun, right? Like it's so unique, and like you said, you really get to know who they are pretty quick, right? Especially with like interactions like that, right? So
yeah,
no, it's special. And I guess, you know, another special moment, you know, that Grey Cup. Let's like kind of dive into that week. You know, you find out you're going there, the motions, the media, things of that nature, and then, you know, ultimately getting in that game.
I mean, yeah, it was that entire year is kind of a blur. I say that, but I mean, it's 4 years ago now, and I missed the first few games of the season with a knee injury and stuff like that. But like you said, that was my first year here in Ottawa. After winning that Eastern final, I mean, it's something special. I had never been a part of that before. The entire week in Toronto is fun. Grey Cup week is awesome. I mean, you get guys flying in from all over Canada, fans of all of their teams, coming and staying in different hotels and stuff. Obviously, with it being in Toronto, it was special as well, having played there before and having family there. But the media opportunities are fun. All of the engagements with the players, the fans, media days, it's a lot of fun. Practices are more fun. Like it's a very, very cool week to be a part of, and it's something special. And then obviously going into the game, some drama early on with Hank and his knee prior to the game, and I mean, we really didn't know what's going on, but getting into the game, we got out to a big start, and then Calgary caught up in the second half, and you know, it was honestly one of the most exciting games that I've probably been a part of. It was fun, holding our breath on their last drive there in overtime, and it was, I mean, as soon as we saw the ball hit the ground on that third down, I mean, it was like an instantaneous joy. Like it's the culmination of the season when you work that hard for that long with a certain group of people on a daily basis. It's something to celebrate, and we had every right to be as happy as we are, and it's something that I'll honestly remember forever. The celebration in the locker room after was probably something that I'll always remember as well. That's special. It is as crazy as you see on TV when you see people celebrating after winning. It was a lot of fun, and I've got a Grey Cup ring with my name on it. My name is on the Grey Cup, and I mean that's something that'll be there forever. And I mean it's history, and to be a part of that with that particular team and the other 45 names that are on the Grey Cup with me that year. I mean it's something special, and it's something that I'll remember forever. And like I said, to be a part of history and to end the season with the highest performance bonus you can at that level, at the top level of your career is I mean, it's phenomenal. It's a life's work that came to a culmination with your name essentially etched in history on the Grey Cup. And that's something that I'm proud of, and it's something that I hope my grandchildren will be proud of, and that's the way that I look at it, so it's special.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. Who knows, maybe, hey, like you're seeing it more and more often, next-gen family members winning and, making the NHL, making the NFL, CFL, right? So who knows, maybe the grandkids are bringing you back the Grey Cup.
Yeah, hopefully, exactly.
No, I mean, yeah, it's a crazy moment. That was actually my first year in Ottawa. So I was watching that game in the common room of Res with all my buddies and things like that, and like the dramatics of it all, and the fact that the overtime, and it's interesting too, because it's like for such a time sport where like you're almost waiting for the clock to run out and then you can celebrate. It's different in football when you get that walk-off celebration, because it rarely happens unless it goes into overtime, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Like I said, as soon as that ball hit the ground on their third down and we knew we won, it was just crazy. Helmets flying in the air everywhere, people jumping around. Like I said, you know what, that team was so special, and the coaching staff, the veterans on the team, the leadership group, the captains, I mean, they deserved it. You know what I mean? I want to say that I deserved it for the amount of effort that I put into that year, but every single person on that team deserved the Grey Cup that year. We deserved the Grey Cup that year, and it's something that's special. And like I said, it's not just my name on the Grey Cup, it's everybody else that was on the active roster that game, and you know what, the practice squad guys are just as important as well, and they deserved it. They really did. So I'm happy for them. I'm happy for us. And I'm happy that us as a team in 2016 will be able to remember that specific group of guys and what we achieved.
Yeah, and I mean, because the thing is, too, is, like, honestly, like, I'm surprised now knowing what I know, because obviously when I came to Ottawa, because first time, like, I was ever in Ottawa was when I moved to Ottawa. Like, I'd never been in the city, didn't do a campus tour. It was just like, okay, they're taking me, let's go, right? So when I got back, like, pro football was already back in Ottawa, right? So the fact that, like, knowing the history and, like, of Ottawa football, and, like, kind of how deprived, like, this fan base was for a long time without a pro team, and, like, finally getting back, and after, I think it was that was year 2 of the return, right, of the Red Blacks?
Year 3.
Year 3?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, because they lost the Grey Cup in 2015.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
So year 3 of being back, and it's like you reach that pinnacle again, and it's a reward almost for the whole community, right? And it's something to celebrate, which is pretty special, right? So the parade and everything like that too, I assume probably brings back some more fond memories.
Yeah, the parade was crazy. The support that we received here in Ottawa once we got back was, I mean, it was insane. The parade that ended at Lansdowne in the Aberdeen Pavilion, was absolutely insane. Like, you could not see the ground for as far as you looked. Like, it was just packed with people. And I mean, it was, like I said, the support that we got and still have here in Ottawa for professional football is incredible. And I mean, I've said that to people my entire life. It's when people were saying that Ottawa's not a football town because the CFL teams kept not working. It was never a supported problem. People in Ottawa love football. I mean, NCAFA was one of the largest amateur football associations in all of Canada when I was growing up. We have always had high level football here in Ottawa. It's just never been the right situation or right ownership group or run properly and things like that, which is unfortunate in the past. But I mean, obviously no looking back now with the ownership group and the management and front office and the support that we get right now, it's absolutely incredible. It's phenomenal place to play. I mean, we pretty much sell out almost every single game, which is special, and the support we get in the community is almost unrivaled here in Canada as well. So I mean, it's a phenomenal place to play, and it's a great city. It's a big city with a small town feel. I'm sure you can appreciate coming from the East Coast. And
no, 100%. I tell people that all the time, because like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like what's it like? And I'm like, honestly, like, yeah, it's a big city, but it's a small town. Like, I think I do, like, I love Toronto, and like I said, like, I was looking at Toronto, and like obviously I'm studying like at a university that's in Toronto, but of course everything's online now. So, and I'm never opposed to, you know, the possibility or where life takes me. And if it is like Toronto, that's like such a big city, but like when I've never lived there, but through staying there for like a few weeks and being in that city, it's like you notice that you're in a big city. Like it's a little bit more, I'll say daunting, even though that might not be the best word to describe it, but you pick up on it. You know a little bit more. But like Ottawa, it's like I'm in a big city, but sometimes like I don't even realize it, right? Like it's like just kind of like going through the channels and things like that. Like it's a little bit of a nicer pace where you can kind of catch your breath and smell the roses in a sense.
No, absolutely, like, exactly. And that's why I always describe it as a big city that feels like a small city. I mean, because like you said, it's the nation's capital, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, the traffic's not nearly as crazy as Toronto and Montreal. We have a fraction of the population as Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. Like it's honestly a great place to live and a great place to play.
Yeah, no, I really couldn't agree more. And I think too, like, because even, you know, like you were saying, like Ottawa, you know, people were saying they're not a football town, right? And like even like in my realm of things in like digital creation, like a lot of people are like, oh, like Ottawa's not that. But I mean, honestly, like it is. Like there's lots of opportunities for it. Like I mean, I think looking back on it, it's like if I was in Toronto, like I'd be almost, you know, battling uphill constantly, right? But you know, when you look at like the opportunities that are here in Ottawa, and it's almost like, hey, this is almost like it's the best not kept secret almost, where it's like there's lots of ways to get in and do those things, right? So like for people to say it, it's just like, honestly, like, no, like it's like you can get here and like you can do these things and like really grow something special, right? And like the, you know, talking about like the social media influencers and things of that nature, like I mean, you know, did you ever play with Dustin Wilson?
Yep.
Yeah, so like, you know, he's doing great things online,
killing
now,
it
right?
on YouTube. Exactly. Yeah.
And like that's a guy who you know, has got over 4 million now of a online audience, and like, you know, you look at that and he's been in Ottawa his like the whole from like start to finish, right? And he's built that here, right? And even that group that they're like in, like his friend group and stuff like that, like those are all like Ottawa guys who have like massive like online followings and things like that. So it's even like things of that nature. Football, like it really is a special city with like a lot, because you know, we're talking about football, like we're talking about two aspects, but 67s are great, like, you know, that's a great product. I mean, you got the Sens out in Canada, like there's lots to do. The Byward Market is unique. TD Place in itself, like that Lansdowne area, one of my favorite spots in the city, right? So yeah, no, it's cool. It's funny because when I made my decision, it's like I had no idea what I was getting into, right? I could have went into basically the worst possible decision that I've ever made, right? Like it was very much a blind one, but looking back on it, it's like, no, like this is actually probably the best decision that I could have made, right? So it's interesting. And I guess, with all this being said, I guess we can kind of lead it into, life after athletics and things of that nature, because I mean, you're in your career now, but you're still, making a lot of investments in terms of the other things that you're doing, whether it be, the nutrition side of things, the brand work, the athletics, personal training, and things of that nature. So if you wanted to dive in a little bit more into that and like why it's important.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, I've worked as a personal trainer and got my first personal training certification in 2011. I wrote and passed the Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist through the NSCA in 2014. Obviously, graduated with a degree in human kinetics. So that's basically been my part-time off-season job for the past, since 2011, right? The past 9 years now. But it's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about human performance and basically getting people to see what their bodies are capable of, and whether that's through mental skills and helping them with day-to-day habits or behaviors, or through things that are simple like strength training, regardless of their goals. That's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about human sciences, and also obviously the coaching aspect of it as well. I love coaching. I love the science behind coaching. I would love an opportunity to coach football, whether it be at the U Sports level or eventually professionally. I want to stay involved in sports and sports organizations. I'm very passionate about that, but in the meantime, personal training and being a strength coach and helping people, coaching people along the process of getting them to their physical and mental goals is something that I'm also very passionate about. And I find it rewarding, and I think that's why I'm so drawn to it, is when people realize what they are capable of doing and the light bulb goes off. It's extremely rewarding to be able to sit back and watch that and feel happy for people, if you know what I'm trying to say. So it's something that I find very rewarding. And like I said, the science behind it is something that has always interested me, and just developing as a human, as a person, and as a coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I guess maybe for some advice, I guess in terms of people who are maybe not in their ideal situation, whether it be physically or mentally, what would you recommend in terms of the first steps to kind of getting that boat or just started, right, that process?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of habit building. It's extremely important, building positive habits and getting into a routine. So the problem that so many people have is they quit before behaviors become automatic. And when that happens, it's disheartening because it doesn't take that long. What people don't realize is that it really only takes 2 to 3 months for behaviors or habits to become part of a routine or to become part of automatic, right? So when people ask like, hey, how do you wake up at 6 a.m. and run out on the field when it's raining and cold? Like, how do you get yourself up to do that? And it's like, it's not a problem. I've been doing it for 2 years now. It's me, it's my life. It becomes part of your life. It becomes part of automatic, and people don't understand that when it becomes part of your routine or part of your lifestyle, part of your life, it becomes easy to prioritize and becomes easy to do. It doesn't feel like a job anymore, and it gets easier as you go. People quit when it's hard because it's hard to build that consistency in their daily routine. Once it becomes part of your routine, it's easy to prioritize, easy to get done, you enjoy doing it, and it doesn't feel like a chore anymore. And just getting people to stick with their goals until it becomes part of their life is just really my best piece of advice, is what I'd say. And building healthy habits that are going to contribute positively to what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's body transformation goals or anything to do with work, to do with where you're trying to get, to do with your lifestyle. Just building positive habits that are going to steer you in the right direction to where you want to go is the most important thing. And I mean, I come from a structured upbringing, obviously my dad served 20 years in the Navy, so I come from a little bit of a regimented military background. So it's easy for me to say those things, but I mean, the best thing that I can do is encourage others to essentially adapt. It doesn't have to be regimented or anything close to military style, but there's a lot of amazing people out there that just give up just a little too soon, that if they had the proper encouragement and proper direction, I guarantee you they'd be able to build these habits into their lifestyle and be able to contribute positively towards their goals. So that's probably my best piece of advice, is just to stick with it. And even though you might not feel like it is important on the day to do that activity, it's not about today. It's about tomorrow. It's about next week. It's about next month, because it's not as simple as just saying, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow is easy to say today, and it's easy to say tomorrow, and it's easy to say the next day. It's more important than today. It's about your lifestyle and where you want to be tomorrow.
No, I think that's huge, right? And there's like a quote or a saying that's essentially going around on the internet and stuff like that. It's like, what if you gave up on your dream today, and tomorrow was actually when you achieved it, right? So it's like it's interesting, and it's a great honestly, it's a great piece of advice. And so this is actually everything that I got for you. I mean, this is actually the part of the show now where I just, I hand the podcast over to you. So it's your show. You can talk about whatever you want. It could be, a life lesson, childhood story. I mean, hey, I don't know, maybe you read a good joke or a good book or anything of that nature. I know we were chatting a little bit before, and you were saying that, you try and mess around with the guitar and the singing a little bit. So who knows, maybe you organize a backyard concert or something like that. But no, I mean, like I said, the show's 100% yours now.
Perfect. This is the part that I've been waiting for. Everybody, welcome to Brendan's Reels. I think you've got a better mic voice than I do, man. Honestly, I love doing this stuff. If you let me talk, we'll be here for another hour. It is tempting to go grab the guitar and do like a top 5 songs never to play at a party if you have a guitar or something like that. Do my best rendition of Wonderwall or something like that. Sorry, Oasis. But honestly, it was fun. We covered a whole bunch of topics. You should definitely tag Ottawa tourism in a couple of those. Richie got a shout out. Dustin Wilson got a shout out. Wolfie Raps, another Ottawa kid. Yeah. I played with his brother. The Rainers are good friends. Yeah, the Rainers are good friends.
Yeah, I've met like Chris Rayner. Their dad. Just obviously he's the go-to surgeon, I guess, for around here, and he's also like one of Ottawa's doctors. So
dude, he operated on my foot. He did my Liz Frank surgery. Okay. So shout out to Dr. Rayner.
The whole Ottawa community is coming in on this.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Well, that's what happens. I've lived in Ottawa since I was 9, I want to say, something like that. I don't know. 7, 8, 9. I don't even know. It's been a long time now. But I mean, I've basically lived all across Canada. I was actually born on the West Coast, which like nobody ever knows because I list Orleans as my hometown. So everyone assumes that I was born here in Ottawa, but I wasn't. I lived in Victoria. I was born in Victoria, BC, moved to Ottawa, then to Halifax, and then back to Ottawa. So I'm East Coast as well. Yeah, got the East Coast lifestyle hat to prove it. Another shout out. Honestly, Ottawa is such an amazing place. It's been an amazing journey here. The high school career, obviously, the university career, professional career. I look back and I mean, people say like, would you do anything differently? And like I said, I've had ups and downs, trials and tribulations, but I honestly wouldn't change a single thing that I did in any part of my career because of the people that I met, the experiences that I've had, and where it's gotten me. And I'm fortunate in that sense that I've met some amazing people along the way. I've gotten the opportunity to play with some amazing people, and I love every single minute of it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. And yeah, I guess that's a great point to leave it off on. Brendan, thanks so much for sitting down and chatting with us today.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And for everyone listening, hey, thanks for tuning in all the way to the end. If you enjoy this podcast, leave us a review, send it to a friend, and we're actually, if you're coming from YouTube because you watch the video component, we're gonna try and set off a speed meter through the speed or whatnot. So yeah, I mean, if you're coming from that and you checked out the podcast, hey, thanks for watching both. And if you're just listening to the podcast, that's something else you can check out. But yeah, hey, in the meantime, stay best kind. All right, that's all for this week. This was a really fun chat, and I hope you had as great of a time as I did. See you next week. In the meantime, stay best kind.